Hello everyone, welcome back to Rolling Solo. My name is Adam Smith and I'm excited because of your fantastic feedback at the end of the last video for Etherfields during this Kickstarter preview that you wanted to see more content for this game, and we have exactly that in store for you. We are going to head into the mill. We're going to move to an open scene here, which is right here in the swamp area. It's going to take us a bit to get over there, and we're going to interact with this scene in this dream world and see whether we can hopefully gain the last key available inside of this prototype that I, at least, am currently aware about. At the end of the last video, we talked about things you can do in the awakening space. As you can see here, changing your items, healing, you can reshuffle your cards or chest on your player board, and you can change your mass. And I am not going to be changing my mass during this playthrough as I want to avoid spoilers of other mass, and I really like the ghost ability that I currently have. I've already shuffled my chest cards, so they're ready to go. I've already healed up from the last video, so the only thing I haven't talked about that I could potentially do is something involving items. Now, with the cards that are currently in my storage area, of which I can interchange with the 3 item card slots that I currently have full, and just to remind you, I have the blue car, I have the Book of Water, and the flashlight currently in there. And to be honest, I like all 3 of those a lot. The Book of Water was extremely cool and allowed me to move around quickly. The flashlight is great for dark areas, so very, very handy. And the blue car is going to come in handy on the world map. So I think I'm set. The only one that I really kind of was eyeing was this train ticket that I got earlier on. The other ones are great, but I think I'm going to leave them where they're at, even though the strategic plan for movement is quite insane. I guess if I was a character that didn't have a lot of movement, that would be extremely enticing. But there's also other good things with the other cards as well. But this train ticket one is quite interesting, and the reason it's interesting is because it allows you to put this in an item slot, remove it when on the world map, to move between railway stations and then not trigger a train scene, of which I haven't seen yet. Don't even know if it's part of this prototype, but regardless, we wouldn't be triggering it, which sounds like a bad thing. Or actually, it is a good thing for me right now, but it sounds like in the final version, going into a train scene could potentially be a bad thing. But the one thing that I noticed in order to actually use this train ticket, it's really all about those arrows on the world map. And as amazing as it would seem to be able to travel between railway stations, you have to be able to get to one in the first place. You'll notice even though there's one right beside me, there's no arrow leaving the awakening space heading into this railway space, meaning I can't just jump to here and then jump to here and then quickly get into the scene. I actually can't do that at all. I'd have to really find another railway station in the world somewhere and then kind of move myself here. But I have to be following those yellow arrows in terms of the path all the time. And then once I get to a railway station, I can then jump to wherever I want. So I can't even use this one, even though it's sitting right beside me, and I'd love to. So that's going to force us to maybe stick with the blue car. And this I'm actually quite happy about because you guys actually voted that I equipped this thing quite a long time ago, and I didn't use it as we journeyed towards the library, although I did that on purpose because I wanted to show you guys some random encounters. But at this point in time, I would love to try to use this blue car to actually avoid them, knowing that there is still a risk I could get hurt doing it. But you know what? That is the name of the game. You've got to risk something sometimes in order to progress further. So we're going to leave the items that I currently have slotted in intact. I like the Book of Water, I like the flashlight, and I like the blue car. So all 3 will stay put and the rest will go back to storage, and we're going to begin our journey towards the mill. The first step of our journey is going to take us to one of the fate spaces with the question mark. So fate has brought us to the clinic, which does not sound bad at all. It says, someone is probably not caring about thyself, and there is again imagery on the card, so if you do happen to have those wisdom card signs, you're going to want to be checking that kind of stuff to make sure that you shouldn't be triggering something. I don't have anything currently with the 3 remaining signs that match anything on this card. It says at the bottom, each character may spend 1 ether to heal 3, which is actually huge, but I don't need to heal anything being that I came straight from the awakening space. So this is a card that would be even more useful when you're far out after some serious exploration inside the world map. We'll continue our journey onto the first random encounter space. Now this is super cool and also really creepy, and another awesome showing of the tie-ins inside the game and how what you do in the past is going to affect your present inside of Etherfields. This is really awesome. Pull the top card of the random encounter deck and actually am now interacting with a card or a entity that I was dealing with in the prologue, which is, I think, just awesome because it of course ties back to something that was really an ultimate choice of myself to do at the time, which put a random encounter card in the deck, shuffled it in, and happened to now finally come back up here in this playthrough, which just works out perfectly. You guys are able to now see some of this kind of stuff tying together. So this malicious child is exactly that. He's just malicious. I don't know if it's a he, she, a thing, an it. I don't know what it is. It's saying hi, hi, hi. It says there's a catch on it. We are trying to get, we can get 8 yellow resources. We're able to catch it. We have a total of 2 turns to do it. So when you see something like this that doesn't have the gray circle in the top right hand corner telling you how many entities to put out on the board, you're not going to go to the random encounter map like we did before when we pulled a random encounter. Some of these encounters are just things that will happen. And this is an example of that. So it says right here, if you fail to catch this malicious child, the child steals one of your keys. That's right. So I have 2 keys. I'm trying to get my third one. He could potentially, or she could potentially, take this from me. Or you may decide that each character suffers 2 pain. And that's something I don't want to do. I don't want to go into a scene with that much pain. Or we can discard 2 chosen powers or discard 1 ether. So again, it really hinges on how well you've been holding on to your ether. If you've been really greedy and you've been buying lots of cards, something like this can come around and really mess with you. If you don't have the ether and the power tokens to pay for it, you'll end up losing something really, really useful. So that's kind of cool to know that you have to balance that stuff within the game. Also down below, it says if you just don't have a key, each character suffers 2 pain or discards 2 powers or discards 1 ether. So there you go. So you have if you fail to catch plus if you have no key on top of it. So in other words, if you don't have a key and you run into this malicious child, it's going to be bad news for you. If you have a key, it's semi-bad news for you, but you're hoping to try to catch it within 2 turns. So we're going to do exactly that. We're going to play through 2 turns. I'm going to set the turn counter to 2 cards like we normally would. We're going to draw up our cards and try to see if we can get this this 8 resources that we need. Thankfully, we have these 2 power tokens that we can use at our disposal freely right now. And we won't be using them right now, but I will definitely be using them in total with my cards to try to get up to this 8 yellow resource to try to catch this kid. Now, I know there's also some of you guys saying, why don't you use the blue car right now? And that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to see if we can actually just drive away fast enough that the kid can't try to snatch anything from us. So as of right now, I'm going to use this blue car for the first time in the game. It's an item I have. It says you may use this item after drawing an encounter on the world map. We're going to roll the fate die once per encounter. If it's a 1, each character suffers a pain, and we remove this item, which is bad for us. 2 to 3, nothing happens. 4 to 6, we get to discard the encounter. So we're aiming for the 4 to 6, which is a 50% shot of something positive happening. So hopefully that works out for us. So I'm going to grab my fate die here, and here we go, hoping for good things. Look at that, we got it. So we drove straight around this kid, no issues whatsoever. We get to discard the encounter, and on top of that, we actually get to keep the blue car. So nice try, kiddo. You almost were able to mess with me a little bit there until we decided to swerve around you and just book it past you as fast as humanly possible. So we're going to continue moving on the world map here and see where this adventure takes us next. You can see right here, we are forced to move into another random encounter, which we're going to do right now. So it appears we've come across a crying shadow. We have 3 turns to deal with this crying shadow. It says, who is this and what does he want from us? We can try to get understanding, and if we get to 2 times 1, because you can see the 3-headed character right there, 2 times 1 meaning 2 is all I need understanding wise to get 1 ether. If I get to 3, then I get to fully understand. And then it says, if there is no understanding at the end of the 3rd turn, each character gets a fear suffering card. So we've never actually seen a suffering card actually get given to us, but if we don't complete this in time, we're going to gain some fear, which is not good. So what I'm going to do is, again, Being that I am in that blue car, I'm absolutely going to try to resolve this. And as you can see on the card, you can do it once per encounter. So I can do this every single time, but there's always that risk that I could literally lose this item if I roll a 1. So here we go. We're going to roll again on the fate die and hope that we can get past this shadow, see how it pans out. Okay, so we got a 2, so we actually just get no effect, which means we have to actually encounter this shadow no matter what. So we do have 3 turns to pull this off, and we know we need to get 3 understanding because we're playing this solo, so 3 times 1 player is just 3. But remember, every single communication that we put on there using one of these green cubes is going to cost us actually 3 contact resources. So over the course of the 3 turns, we need to generate 9 resources to pull this off. So hopefully I get what I need, or I'm going to be in trouble here. I don't really want to get a fear suffering card going any further. That would be bad. So we're going to draw up to 5 cards right away, because I want to grab as many as I can to try to avoid this nastiness from happening. So here we go. Starting off with regrouping as the first card in hand. Second card is good. That's contact for 2. Third card is the dodge card that we've seen before. There's a nice optional card, so that's good. We're up to 4 now. So actually, or sorry, 3. So that actually is alone right there what we needed to get 1 contact token on this. And that's good, because if we get 1 per turn, we'll survive this. Let's see what we get next. Nice. And we even got 1 moving into the next one afterwards as well. So I'm going to go ahead and place regrouping in the active area here. And now we have 2 red cards in here. This one that's flipped upside down, for those of you that don't remember, this is the memory of card. So this could be really good also to flip back up at some point. But in order to do that, we have to be able to have a card up here that allows us to flip it up because of our special ability. And you can see here, it's currently covered, so I can't do it. So as of right now, I have 2 red cards in here. I could choose to discard Peeving, and if I did, I can draw the number of active red cards as we know. So I'm going to do that. I don't want to use regrouping because I can do the same thing, but then I have to roll a fate die and I could potentially get some pain. I don't see any bonus to that. So we're going to go ahead and do this one because it's kind of like a nice quick one that doesn't have any nastiness to it. That's a plus. We got the restoring card with 2 contact on it, so that was worth it. And after that, we got Smarty as well. So that's not too terrible to add into our hand. Now I'm kind of on a roll at this point, so I might as well put some stuff in my active area here and continue drawing up. So I'm going to put Dodge in there, which is a yellow card. Then I'm going to put Smarty in there, which allows me to discard this card to draw as many yellow cards are in my active area, which is another 2 cards. So you can see this stuff really starts chaining together depending on how you're building your deck. There is another contact. And there's 2 contact. Check that out. We have everything we need in our hand currently, which if you take a look at this is pretty awesome. There is a ton of contact just generated by basically using the deck building mechanics within the game to actually churn that out in 1 single turn, which is pretty crazy. I don't think I've ever done that before. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's exactly what we need to spend a full total of 3. And remember, we're going to get the benefit thanks to hitting 2 as well. We get an ether into this as well. So we'll gain 1 ether for hitting 2. And then we're also going to put 3 of these talking or communication cubes on the Crying Shadow, and in the first turn we successfully have understood the Crying Shadow. So the Crying Shadow is no more. We've completely understood its issues and we have gained understanding. Now you might be wondering, what is understanding? Do we get something out of that? Well, we did get the ether for the 2 communication that we were able to generate with this Crying Shadow, but it does say we get understanding, and it might sound like that's a keyword or something we should actually obtain, but as of this prototype, there's nothing in the rulebook that tells us anything is obtained by understanding. Now my guess would be in the final version that's going to be different, something I'm really intrigued about because it sounds like the negative side of it has everything to do with the suffering card and pulling out of fear. So my guess would be that the positive side would be understanding, meaning that maybe there's some type of positive effect card that I would gain saying that I've understood this particular shadow, or maybe it would reveal something. But again, being that this is a prototype, a lot of that stuff is hidden away. So we'll continue moving through the world to the next space, flip one card. Well, this one's quite easy to accomplish. Not exactly something I'm overly excited to do, but I'm going to be flipping one of these cards over, either regrouping or dodge. I don't want to have to roll a fate die to take pain, potentially. I'm not that desperate right now, so I'm going to take the regrouping card and flip it over. Now remember, when you're inside of one of those situations where you're managing your deck inside of an encounter or something along those lines, you are freely able to discard these cards even when they're face down. But for now, they're just basically clogging up your active row. And again, remember, my ability here will always allow me, if this is facing right like this, to go ahead and try to spend some contact to flip these back up. So if you have a really super powerful card you want to try to use multiple times over, you can start chaining that together, which is pretty awesome. Now this next one coming up is slightly sad, and it's because it's something that I have to deal with, because I can't use a card for any of these things that have text on them, like flip a card or discard a power, because it only actually works for encounters, and this is not an encounter, it's something you just have to do. And in this case it says to discard one power, and that's really sad because remember, in the last video I worked so hard to gain 2 of those false power tokens, so one of those is actually going to be removed. So in a way it was actually kind of good because it saved us from losing the only one we had, but now we're just right back to where we started there with how many power tokens we have. So certainly a kick for sure. Now taking a look at the pattern of where we can go from here, you can see the next spot will have us go directly to the scene. So there's really nothing else to do but move to that scene right now, and we have arrived at the mill.
This is the place where career and personal development awaits for each ambitious shadow in a nice swampy atmosphere. It's a swamp mill. This is where the soil is mixed with water, creating mud. It's hard and arduous work. The grinding of a big wheel, the lapping of water, the swampy vapors. Maybe it's your new home.
Certainly doesn't sound like a place I want to hang out in for very long. This has 8 turns, but being that we're playing solo, we're going to add 3 to that, so a total of 11 turns. Our goal here is to find all 4 parts of the path through the swamp. So we're trying to find our way through this thing and hopefully find the key at the end of it. There's also those paw prints, again, that can activate, and when they do, you're going to be rolling a fate die. If the result is lower than 4, you cannot move anymore this turn. So that's interesting. It's going to kind of slow movement down, but remember, we have that ghost ability. Again, really, really useful. You may spend your contact or and false to increase the result by 1 for each 1 resource. So that's kind of handy as well. Here is the intro tile for the mill in the swamp, chapter number 3, and the number on the card reads 587. We are going to enter the mill by taking all 604 tiles. So we'll be taking those from the secret tiles deck in a second and placing them out on the playboard. We'll be removing the world map as well. The reward for winning is of course a key, which we really, really need. And then on top of it, we're also going to be able to reveal 828 from the secrets area. And if we lose, then we reset the entire location. If the 604 number tile was used in the game, we remove it from the game and remove the 488 card from the game. At the next visit, use the 604 number B and 604 number C tiles immediately. So you can see here, if you actually fail this particular scene, it's probably going to have an impact or a change to the environment itself. So along the bottom of the world map for now, I've set the ones that talk about the fail condition. Again, I have no idea if these will be called upon during this scene at all, or only when the fail condition triggers, but we have 604B, 604C, and 604 the number sign. Again, they might be called, but unless they say turn 1 or 2, these things will not be revealed unless stated. However, this appears to be where the action is going to take place, as we have 604 A1 quadrant, 604 turn 2, A2 quadrant, and then we have our 604 turn 1 card. So my guess is there could be an entity on this one. It's going to be revealed right away anyway. This will be revealed, but this one will wait until turn number 2. So again, I'll use my turn 2 marker. I'm going to place this on top of the turn counter deck, which has been set up with 11 cards. So 11 cards are in this deck right here that we'll be churning through. You can see the very top one is a question mark. So if this happens to be an entity that has AI built in, we're not going to know what it's going to do, which will throw a nice curveball at us right from the beginning. So without further ado, how about we reveal the turn 1 tiles. So we'll start off here with the A1 quadrant card. I'm really curious to see what we got here. Wow, there's a lot going on in that tile. So there seems to be a lot of things that we're gonna be able to do on this tile by itself. You can see way up in the top left-hand corner, the paw print is there, which would activate on us if the entity of whatever the thing is that's here at the mill happens to land there. But for us, if we go there and spend 9 contact, we found the first part of the path that we're trying to find, and we can mark it with a universal marker, and that's something we need to do. Down below here, we won't go into full detail until you see everything on that tile, but there is not only an environmental thing here for the swamp, if I'm correct, but there's also a water symbol here as well, which is handy because remember, we have the Book of Water, and there's water here, so this can actually work out quite well for us. We also have this one right here, it says search the mud for 6 contact, and we get to reveal a secret card 317. We have the starting positions in the bottom left-hand corner, so that's good. That's where our character will begin the journey. So we'll go ahead and just place our character like so. And then over here on this far side, we have the director of the mill. So we have the availability to try to converse or have a conversation with this individual. And if we get up to 2 talk cubes onto him, we're able to reveal 559. There's a whole bunch of text here on these cards or this tile as well. So let's zoom in and take a look at everything we're seeing here. Laborers are working hard like hermits. The manager encourages with enthusiasm. Pitchers with water, bags with ground, some water, some earth, some work, a lot of enthusiasm. Not 100% certain that I really want to work for this individual just yet, but it is quite interesting to see what's going on here, which seems to be like a lot of chaos. So I am going to now reveal the other tile that is situated for turn number 1, and this is likely to throw quite the curveball into what's going on. One other thing to note too is that we do have a red barrier as well on this tile that sits right here, so meaning that we're not going to be able to move across this way or be able to draw range through that either. Okay, time to find out what 604 turn 1 tile card has. This one again does not have a quadrant. What do we have here? Oh my goodness. Okay, so we found a swamp. It looks like that's a gigantic snake. Something moves with the water. That's not good at all. So we have the oh my goodness, we're trying to dodge this thing. Oh, this whole time we're going to be in here, we're going to be dealing with a gigantic snake coming after us. That's not going to be good. So we're trying to inflict wounds on it. And again, we can use 3 wrath to generate a wound. We get 2 wounds, we can dodge. If we dodge, we discard the action marker that is sitting on the snake's action, meaning that it doesn't do anything that particular turn. So that's good. We'll be trying to do that as much as possible. The different things that this snake can potentially do to us, we have snakes. Each character in range 1 from any swamp space suffers 1 pain. So it's just like basically snapping at us, biting at us as we move through this swamp. The next option here for 2 is each character on the swamp space suffers 2 pain. That's really bad. And then the final 2 here says each character on the swamp space suffers 2 pain or gets drowning, the suffering card. So it's basically pulling us under, I guess. We'll find out what that means from the suffering deck later, but it seems essentially like if we're trying to go to a space that we need to find a path out of this swamp, this snake is going to be right there waiting for us. There's also some words on this card I'd like to read out to you guys because they all sound very pleasant. It says, something draws me under the water. Mud snakes, they are everywhere, and we hate people. Okay, that just sounds bad all the way around. And what makes this even more fun, being in a swamp and not knowing where this snake is going to snap up and bite us, is the fact that the very first thing it gets to put its universal marker on is a question mark, meaning we'll have no idea what it's going to do, and it's going to throw a lot of fun into this very first turn. So now that we know a lot about the snake and where not to be, we are actually standing exactly where we don't want to be. We are literally in the swamp. You can see right here the terrain icons in between the line for 2 different quadrants. That means that both of these locations are considered to be in the swamp, which means literally anything that the snake happens to get on its AI roll will affect us, because we're either in a swamp or we're one away. And that was kind of the criteria for all of the options. So we're in trouble regardless, unless we get out of there. And we know, because thankfully, as you guys remember, the random encounter that we had where we tried to talk down to a shadow, or not talk down, I shouldn't say talk down, we actually tried to encourage or communicate with the very sad shadow that we found. We burned 9 contact to do that, and that's ironically exactly the amount that we need up here at the very top in order to put our first universal marker down. In order to find a way to the swamp, we need 4 of them in total. So yeah, my deck doesn't really have a ton of contact at the moment because I burnt a bunch. So it might not be a good idea to be sitting in the swamp. So my first order of business is to get onto land and maybe head up here and talk to the director of the mill and see if there's something else going on here. Plus, we know turn 2, this tile is going to be flipped over and maybe some more options will be revealed. So here we go. We're going to start off right from the top of the deck. So we'll flip this one over. First card is the dark side card. If we're looking to actually, now again, remember, we can actually try to attack this snake. So we can try to do that to knock the ability for it to interact with us. So something like this is really, really good and probably worth putting in our active area later on. The dark side, there is 1 contact. That's good. We need to work our way up. Oh, the pocket ladder. Now, sadly, I'm not in the city anymore, so I can't use it, but there's some contact that I actually kind of forgot that I had. So we actually have at least the ability to have 1 talk cube put onto the director of the mill currently. Maybe we can get some more. Okay, we're working our way up there. We need 6, so we're getting kind of close on actually pulling that off. All right, so we didn't get exactly what we needed, but maybe there's a way we can make this work. So what I'm going to do this turn is more of setting myself up to try to talk to the director of the mill maybe on the next turn. Really hope I'm not wasting time with that, but we're going to go ahead and use the stairs because I can use it for 2 of the yellow resources, and it's a good use of this card to allow me to move on the world map 2 spaces. It gets me away from the swamp. It gets me up against a red border where no range can be drawn, no snake can attack me, which is good news. The only downside is I only have 5 contact, so I'm not able to actually interact or talk to the director just yet until I get 6 contact. But I do have this dark side card, and I was thinking that I could try to make an attack against the swamp snake in order to try to stop it, but I haven't generated enough wrath to do so. So what I'm going to probably do, and it's really tough because I'd love to use the bottom part of this card as instant to exchange any number of my powers. I could use it right now. I could play it as a rapid card because it has the white up top, to change this to a wrath, which could really help me to defend against the snake later on. And that's kind of what I want to do. But the other thing is I'm 1 away, and it's a really tough call. But I'm going to do the smart thing. Instead of gambling and spending 3 wrath to draw 1 more card and hope that it ends up being the green contact I need, I'm going to be smart and know that this dark side card may not come back again, but what will come back again is a guarantee that I'll have wrath as a power token every single time. And movement's not a power token I need that much of, so I'm going to play the dark side as a rapid card. Exchange any number of your powers for wrath power. So I'm going to switch out this false power for a wrath power, which is going to help me progress towards making attacks against the snake, hopefully stopping it from hurting me later on. So for now I only have 5, and I'm quite happy to stop there. Plus, if I stop here, I also have some false resources that I can trigger dodge with. If the snake ever gets close enough to me, I can use it to roll the fate die and hopefully be able to dodge and attack from it. The final thing I'll do is I'm going to go ahead and put the pocket ladder from my hand into the active area so it doesn't clog up my hand in terms of drawing up on the next turn. So then I have a total of just 2 cards in hand, and I'm more prepared to be able to draw 3 more cards up, hoping to get that contact that I need. So get me out of the swamp area. I'm just going to move 1 and 2 up to this area here with the director, trying to eventually talk my way into something. So what I could have done as well, just so you guys are aware, is again, it has the symbol 2 times the number of players. You don't have to hold all your contact and spend it all at once. I could technically spend 3 right now in order to put 1 talk cube on it and work my way up to it, right? Because it's just like a regular entity that you can interact with its own card. Plus, it doesn't clog up your hand as well. But because the pocket ladder has 3 resources of contact on it and can sit in my active area no problem, and the 2 cards that I have in my hand are only taking up 2 spots, I'm not able to dump my hand out and use the pocket ladder to get the 3 I want without actually losing resources. That might sound really confusing, but the long and short of it is, if I wanted to empty out my hand completely, I'd have to use these ones for 2 resources. That would empty out my hand, but to get the 3rd resource I need to put the 1 green token on here to work my way towards it would cause me to have to spend the pocket ladder for only 1 resource, burning the other 2 for no good reason. So that's the reason why I'm not going to do that. But I wanted to let you know that you can work your way up. If I happen to have 3 rapid cards in my hand, which I only have 2 that had the green resource, I could pull that off. Now that I know I'm in safety, I'm going to go ahead now and roll for this snake and see what happens. Again, I know that I'm fairly safe here. Nothing bad is going to happen to me. So 1, what would have happened? Well, each character in range 1 from any swamp space suffers a pain. And thankfully, this is a swamp space, but there's a red line dividing it, meaning that nothing can be traced through that line, movement or range, so I take no damage. We're moving on to turn number 2, so I'll go ahead and remove this token, and at the same time, we'll remove this card. And what is going to change? Well, entity's action range is increased by 1. Well, that's really bad because we know that range can go around corners. It doesn't go diagonal, so at this particular point in time, the swamp space could actually hit me where I'm currently standing because of this. And it's literally going to sit on the exact same thing that I rolled in the last turn. So it will, that universal marker will stay on the 1 position of the swamp snake. So that is super inconvenient because that definitely makes this range 1 attack a range 2. And that is going to cause me pain unless I try to get away from the snake from a further distance or stay as far away from swamps as humanly possible. The turn 2 marker that I discarded from the top of the turn counter deck has been removed, but it's a reminder to say, don't forget to flip that tile over. So we're going to do that right now to find out what's beside us. We've got a lot more going on here. What is happening on this side of things? We've got all kinds of stuff happening. Plus there's borders everywhere. And I guess the good news is there's a wall barrier here. So if I get far enough in, the snake won't be able to hit me. But you can see right now, this is a swamp space drawing a range of 1, 2. It can hit me. So I can't be here at the end of my turn or I'm going to get in trouble. But I can be here, and be completely safe. Those are the only 2 spots in the entire board I can be right now based on that boost to range. There's also a bunch of other stuff going on here in these tiles, so let's zoom in on this new one and see what other things we can interact with. In the A2 quadrant, it says, I do not have the time to talk. The work won't do itself. Underneath of that, it says, this is the heart of the machine. Can we damage it? We can use 6 Wrath or we can use 4 False and we get a 129 card reveal. Down here, we can actually talk to an individual and it says, let's talk, for contact, and we reveal card 093. Now on the far right hand side here of this A2 tile, we've got 2 spaces, both of them with a terrain of swamp, and it says right here for 6 contact, I found the 3rd part of the path. We can mark it with universal marker for 6 contact. It does have that paw print in red as it does below. This is very different because I went into this thinking that the actual entity we find here could potentially be triggering these paw prints as it did in the prior scene with the library. With this one, it's different. The paw print actually activates when you walk into it. And the reason that is because on the swamp snake's card itself in the top right hand corner, there is no gray circle, meaning there's no miniature represented for the snake because, well, it doesn't show itself. It's hiding in amongst the swamp, jumping up and biting us. So it's only when we move into these paw prints that it's going to trigger based on the information that we saw on the swamp card for the intro tile that said we'd roll a fate die, and if the result is lower than a 4, we cannot move anymore this turn. But we can spend contact or false to increase the result. 1 for each 1 resource. So we can actually burn resources to increment that roll up to the point where we can move again. In the very bottom right hand corner, we have another path that we need to go ahead and use contact in order to succeed at, putting a universal marker there, 7 in this case, and that does it. Now you'll also notice that there was only 3 paths identified so far. The first path, the third path, and the second path. I see nothing about the fourth path, so obviously we're going to have to interact with all these 4 other options in this scene to figure out where that fourth path is hiding. So we're beginning my turn. I'm actually going to go ahead and choose to decide to discard the 2 cards that are face down. I don't really want to spend contact to flip them back up, so I'm just going to chuck them. So both of these cards are going to go into here. They're both wrath based. It's actually good to get rid of them because eventually they'll come back into my hand anyway. This also opens up spaces in my active card row, so I'll leave these 2 right here. We do have 2 cards in hand currently. I'm really hoping to find more contact so I can actually finish off the conversation here with this director, because I need to be out of this space before my turn ends so I don't get hit. So here's my 3rd card pulled up. That's not what I want to see. I want to see some more contact. There we go, the Searcher. And this is actually really cool because it says Searcher only in this exact location that I currently am. I can use 2 false. You may use contact as false this turn. So I guess if I wanted to move faster. So we currently have 4 cards. I already got the contact I need. Lastly, we have Analysis. Now I got to remember this one. This one says 4 false spent. From now on, entities suffer. Oh, that is huge. This one we need to get staged in the active area because that's going to really help us when we're making attacks against the snake to prevent it from activating on its turn. So I'm obviously going to start my turn off by putting Analysis in the active area. That's a no-brainer. The Searcher will also go there, but we're going to really use all the contact right now anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and spend the Pocket Ladder, the Searcher, plus these 2. And this I really hope pays off for me because this is a total of 6 contact, and I doubt with the 9 I've already spent there's much more left in the deck until we chew through it. So I really hope this pays off. This allows me to put 2 talk cubes or tokens on the director, and now we can interact with it and reveal card 559. So there is the director at the base of my miniature. We're going to go ahead and put 2 talk cubes right like that, saying that we successfully completed it. We're going to go now look for 599. Really hoping that this pays off, because if it doesn't, we're going to put ourselves in quite a situation, because that definitely burned probably the majority of my contact with everything else I've already spent, as I mentioned. Oh my gosh.
Not now. I don't have time, and it's Mr. for you. Look around. It's worth to devote one's health for what we do here. There is no mud without work. Get serious.
It says action available during this turn. We can spend 3 false and try sneaking into the Bureau's offices and searching them. We have over here on the right, you notice a basement on the mill plans behind his desk. Add card 488. That's interesting. And we get to add 1 turn to the turn counter deck, so I guess that's a plus. So we saved ourselves a turn. And it says right at the very bottom, Director of the Mill and the Mud Factory. This was a really interesting find. Now check this out. I think we might have just saved ourselves some time. This card that I just revealed, 488, because we noticed a basement on the mill plans behind his desk, we got to add that 488 card, and that's this one right here, which is really cool. And you can see it actually covers right over that individual that was saying that we could talk to. So we might have actually been able to skip ahead a little bit on what we were actually accomplishing, because I don't believe we can talk to him anymore. Now it does partially kind of block off that, so I'm going to assume we can't use that. But you can see here it's opened up a whole other location that even has a red arrow pointing out to this location here. So this is really different. It says sewers. You can move also to that space from here. And that's very true, because I had forgotten when I was talking about the snake attacking me and these barriers here that I can't move across this wall. I can't move or find range over the red. But now, because we found the sewers out of this area, we can actually get out to the opposite side. So I really opened up the ability to go to those other paths now. It also says for 3 contact, we can remove action marker from the swamp. So that's huge too, because we can actually just pay contact now to ditch this thing. So it gives us another way to fight back, because or maybe in a way we found a sewer thematically, so we're able to hide inside of it, and the snake isn't able to find us as easily as when we're drudging through the swamp. So that's extremely cool. Now, what's also awesome on top of that is this ability right here that says an action available during this turn. We read this earlier. It says for 3 false, that's this turn right now, we can spend 3 false to try sneaking into the Bureau's offices and searching them. I absolutely want to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and spend the 1 rapid card I have for 1 false. And then I'm going to take the, now that I don't think I need dodge at the moment anyway, although I might regret that later, I think what I'll do is I think I will use dodge actually for the 2 resources up top. That gives me a total of 3 false. So both of those cards are going to go in the discard pile. So now we're able to reveal 59 and see what happens inside the Bureau's offices. And we have found the map of the swamp. This looks awesome. You can see here it's got 4 Roman numerals on it, which is relating back to the fact we're trying to find past 4 of them to get out of this swamp. I cannot believe what we just found here. It's so cool. It says from now on until the end of the scene, when you are finding the path, which is the main objective here to find 4 of them, with the lowest number, meaning we have to be going after path number 1 first, and path number 2 second, then 3, then 4. When we do it in that order, as it even states right here in the card with the Roman numerals, then it's going to change the action costs of finding that path from whatever it states down to 3, which is crazy because the first one we need to do is a 9. It's going to reduce it down to 3. So, and that's going to continue. We'll go to the first path and do that one. The second path is 7 resources. The third path is 6. And we're still looking for the 4th path. And on top of that, we now get to reveal tile 604C. And that tile 604C is right here. That's this gigantic area of swamp, which is the terrain icons right in the middle. So everything's swamp here. The red icons are all over the place. And there's only 1 for this new tile, but now we've got kind of a nice barrier. We can try to use the sewers to get in there. Once we're in here, we have to go all the way over here to find the 4th part of the path to get out of here. So now we have everything revealed that we know we need to succeed. We just need to get all that contact. We have to move around. We have to avoid the snake. Really, things start opening up at this particular point in time. Another thing to note, guys, is that during all of this crazy unveiling and revealing of things, I was supposed to add a turn to the turn counter. I have done that now, so all the turn counter cards have been actually used up in the entire prototype. There's currently 11 cards sitting in that deck right now because we've already burned 1 already, and there's only 12 in the prototype. So that was a really, really, really worthwhile turn. Not only did we get to talk to the director and open things up, finding out about the sewers, we fully resolved this card that came up. We were able to do the one-time action to sneak into the Bureau and find some useful information like the map to branch this thing out even further. We also were able to go into the basement plans and find the sewers. Like, just so many things were done. And I can't see on any of these cards anything that matches the wisdom tokens that we currently have, but I have been keeping my eyes out for them. This one looks to be a lamp. This one looks to be just a hand grasping at something, and this one looks to be, I don't know what that is. But there are 3 left. None of them match this thing. They look more like they might relate to a card than anything else. So far we're doing pretty good overall. So we're pretty much at the end of my turn. There's really only 1 more thing that I can do. This is all I have left actually in my active area. I have no cards left in my hand, so I have the ability to move at this point. And this is a question that I'm going to throw back to you guys. Should we charge towards the very first path to try to get after it, because we know now that the cost of going these in order 1, 2, 3, 4 is only 3 contact if I do them in that order? But knowing full well that currently I've burnt a lot of contacts, so there's probably not much left in my deck. My chest area deck currently has 11 cards left, meaning that I could end up getting over here and then basically sitting there for a turn or 2 and just being attacked by the snake, so that might not be a wise strategy. The only other alternate strategy that I can think of is to use the movement from the analysis to go here. And by putting myself here with the extra range that the snake's going to get on its turn when it activates from the swamp area that has the only reach into this area, it can go 2, but it has to go orthogonal, so it can't touch me up on the diagonal, so I'd be safe there. That's what I'm thinking I should do, because I'm able to generate movement pretty well. I don't really have a concern too much about that. So I think moving myself there makes the most sense. And then maybe later on I can maybe try to do this right here. It says this is the heart of the machine. Can we damage it? Maybe something with this could be useful as I wait to build up contact, because this one has wrath and false. So let me know in the voting option in the top right hand corner of the video, what do you think we should do? Do you think we should charge towards this first path? or should we move to avoid the snake? So I'm going to put myself back where I originally was, and I'm going to leave this decision up to you guys. And that's going to wrap up this particular part of the mill playthrough. I really hope you guys are enjoying it. So far, we seem to have progressed to a point of really understanding what we have to do to succeed here. And now that we have the advantage of the contact of only 3 to spend at each different path, we are on a mission to try to pull this off before our turn counters run out. So if you have an alternative strategy that I didn't present in the last clip, let me know in the comments below, or if you liked one of those particular thoughts, let me know in the comments below. As well, in the top right hand corner of the video, there's an eye. You can click on that and you can vote for one of the 2 if you're in the camp of either of those ideas. If you have something totally outside of that, that's awesome as well. Let me know what you think. Either way, I'll see you in the next episode when we cover the second half of the mill. Thanks for watching, and as always, keep on rolling solo.